What do you want to say to the taxpayers who work hard for their money and you stole that from them?
Tonight, our Call 6 investigators are questioning public officials accused of misusing and even downright stealing your tax dollars.
As you can see, some run from our questions and hide from our cameras. And as a 3-month investigation found, many also escape criminal charges. This despite a statewide effort to crack down on public corruption. Call 6 investigator Kara Kenny joins us now with her findings. Kara.
Well, Jenna, public employees have misappropriated more than $5 million statewide over the past few years, according to the Attorney General. We spent months digging into public corruption cases and found just a third of public employees ever face criminal charges for that missing money.
These are the faces of public servants accused of violating the taxpayers' trust. Clerk treasurers, trustees, sheriffs, school officials. Perhaps no community knows the impact of public corruption better than Brownstown.
It's just mistrust, and it's hard to regain that, that trust back.
David Willie has lived in the Jackson County town of 3,000 for 30 years. He also serves as the clerk treasurer, taking over for Rebecca Fee, who defrauded the town out of $370,000, a quarter of its yearly budget. As a result, town employees have gone without raises for 6 years.
It's hard to understand, why do I have to pay for somebody else's mistake?
Brownstown has also put off revitalization projects.
They need to be tore down and something replaced.
Fee is serving 33 months in federal prison.
At least she is doing some time.
But Fee is in the minority. Call 6 examined more than 200 public corruption investigations, most from the past 3 years, and we found prosecutors charged just a third of public servants with a crime. Of those convicted, only a handful served time in prison. Former Mitchell School Clerk Treasurer Kathy Kirk pleaded guilty to forgery, theft, and corrupt business influence.
Why would you take $110,000 from the taxpayers?
You just pleaded guilty. Can you give us some sort of explanation of why you did it? Kirk did tell us she is sorry.
Kathy, you used taxpayer money to buy jewelry. What do you want to say for yourself?
A judge will consider whether to send her to prison and if she'll have to repay the money.
They were paid a certain amount by the employer.
The Attorney General's office also goes after money on behalf of the taxpayer. The AG filed civil lawsuits in more than half of the public corruption cases the Call 6 investigators reviewed.
Some of them tell us that they were going to put the money back. There's always some story, and I'm not in the position to feel sorry for people. I'm there to collect the public's money back.
Many financial public corruption cases start with the State Board of Accounts, which regularly audits state and local agencies and points out when tax dollars are misused.
We work hard for our money.
Deputy State Examiner Paul Joyce explains his agency forwards its reports to the AG, who can decide whether to go after the money and file a civil suit, and to local prosecutors, who can decide whether to pursue criminal charges.
I think it's definitely frustrating. I mean, I hear that from our examiners all the time as well. Why did that not go anywhere? And I really can't answer that question.
So is there anything else?
So we asked Johnson County Prosecutor Bradley Cooper. In the 7 cases we looked at, his office did not file criminal charges in any of them, including the case of a former animal shelter warden who admitted to stealing thousands.
The statute of limitations ran on the case.
Why not file criminal charges in any of these cases?
Because we have to have the evidence to prove a criminal case beyond a reasonable doubt.
The State Board of Accounts estimates about half of public corruption cases involve public employees outright stealing. The other half involve public servants who just aren't doing their jobs well at taxpayer expense.
Mismanaging things are not crimes. It becomes frustrating that someone has committed a crime, but you cannot prosecute them because you have a lack of evidence.
Also, Attorney General Greg Zeller says it's easier to prove a civil case than a criminal case.
We go after the money.
His office has collected $2.4 million, in part because investigators don't give up easily. Former state worker David Scott served 4 years for stealing from taxpayers, and the AG's office is still trying to get him to pay up 13 years after his conviction.
Mr. Scott, the state says you owe $464,000. What is your response to that? You have nothing to say to the taxpayers? Are you sorry?
I'm sorry.
You are sorry? Are you going to repay it?
Yes.
Neither Scott nor his convicted accomplice, Brenda Mayfield, would tell us why they stole.
The state says that you owe $218,000. Are you planning on repaying that?
No questions.
In court, Scott and Mayfield both agreed to repay $50 a month.
I apologize.
In Howard County, prosecutors never criminally charged former Harrison Township trustee John Harbaugh Jr.
If you want to, you can talk to my lawyer.
The AG's office is suing him for misappropriating $16,000 in taxpayer funds.
I'd really like to talk to you.
I'd rather just end it. Thank you anyway.
A door shut, but Brownstown can't close the door on what happened. The town and other communities burdened by public corruption have a long way to go before they're whole again.
Rebecca Fee has paid Brownstown $500 in restitution, but she still has more than $369,000 to go. She's expected to be released from prison next summer. The Attorney General says the vast majority of public officials are good, hard-working individuals, but he says it's time to stop public corruption before it happens. He is pushing for legislation in the upcoming session that would require 2 signatures on expenses that would hopefully provide an extra set of eyes on the books as they're being written. So a little bit more on the front side as opposed to the back side.
First of all, nice work. But secondly, why do these people do this when they know they're being audited?
I asked that same question, and apparently there's a lot of rationalizing going on. When we dug through those court documents, a lot of these public officials had other things going on, like bankruptcy, like foreclosure, like divorces. And the State Board of Accounts says those financial problems combined with some easily accessible cash can be a recipe for disaster.
Oh, so much money. Amazing, Kara. Thank you very much.